Did you want to wait a minute, or would you like to go ahead and for us to jump right in?
Let's wait just one more moment, and we'll give people just a chance, just in case we've got a couple adding on. But we'll go ahead and get started here really shortly.
Okay.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. And again, good afternoon. I'm glad you could join us. This is Aaron Hacker, and I'm on the phone with Natasha Telger. And we hope that your community youth employment program is going well. We hope that your programs are off to a good start. I say good start, but it occurs to me, you know, we're over halfway through January now. We are over a quarter of the way through the program. I know it's a kind of a short fiscal year this year, again, being only 8 months. Hopefully in FY19, we're going to look at 12 months. A lot of that is out of our hands when it comes to the funding of the program and authorization for the program, but we are anticipating anxiously that we will be able to just continue this program as of July 1st and just continue it right into FY19, and so, but I know this year already seems to be going by rather quickly, and so hopefully you guys have started, you know, working with the youth, recruiting youth, and doing some initial training, maybe even making some initial job placements here. So as the WorkNet continues to be developed in order to provide you some more functionality, like I say, I'm excited about some of the things that we've got in the works, and I say I get to do a lot of talking about what I want the WorkNet to be able to do, and Natasha and her team really have the difficult job of taking all that and putting it into a system that is going to function and it's going to be intuitive and make sense. So far I've been really impressed with what they've been able to put together, and hopefully you are finding that what is available to you is useful.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and jump right into the tools. That's what we have to look at today. Before the holiday, we had looked at the progress page, and while that is available, we have some updates that will be going out, and I just want to kind of give you an overview of those updates, and then also kind of give you a heads up. Some people, especially those that are have worked with some of the Illinois WorkNet tools in the past, they want to see, how they can have like an overview of their applications and where those are coming, where the status is of those, because you're used to working with our dashboards. So I'll briefly talk about what's to come with dashboards. So, and then Aaron, feel free to jump in and comment on anything. So I want to go ahead and start out with, we may have some new people. I know that we've been giving people access to the tools, and I don't want to make an assumption that everybody knows how to get started. So what I want to do is just start out by saying in Illinois WorkNet, we have partner tools. So if you just go to illinoisworknet.com, you click on the partner resources, click on the program tile for the Community Youth Employment Program, you'll come to our partner page. And our partner page has our different resources that are available. And if you need to take a look at any training materials that we've gone through already, those are available on the training and materials training materials and videos page, and then you can take a look at some of the updates that we have made. So I will be adding the progress page instructions. Like I said, we've made some updates to them, and so they're going through the final proof, and then those will be available in the morning. So let me go into our test environment. I want to make sure I'm not showing anything extra here. Real customer information. These are all test customers, so if you recognize any names, it's strictly by coincidence. Okay, so let me go back here. From the Community Youth Employment Program Partner page, you can click on the CYEP Partner Tools and log into your Illinois WorkNet account, and it will take you to the tools that are currently available. So when you go to this page, you'll see a listing of your customers, and these customers have been given to you or assigned to you because they have completed an online application and they have selected you as the provider. On this page, you can also see the application status and when it was submitted. Each of these areas on this page have these little arrows, and so you can sort them by, for example, the application. You can see who hasn't submitted it, who has. You can see the people that, somebody that's just recently submitted an application, you would be able to, sort and use those filters available or here, so you can easily access those people maybe that have just joined. So you can go ahead and look through that. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the progress page and some of the updates that are going to be pushed out. And just as a reminder, whenever you come to their pages, the left side, the profile information always stays over on the left-hand side. You can see more of their contact information by selecting the link to show more contact information. You can reset their password, you can send them messages. Whenever a customer completes their application, their information is saved on their application page, and if they, for some reason, have answered something incorrectly, or they didn't understand a question, you can go to their application page and update that information for them. They won't be able to update it on their end because once they submit an application, they can't make any changes, but you can update it on the partner side. So the next item is the progress page. And on the progress page, we start out with the case notes area. So you can add a case note, and you would just enter in a subject, kind of what's the task, what's the purpose of this. You can add in the note. You can send case notes as messages, or you can save or an email, or you can send it just as a case note without sending any messages. If you choose to send it as a message, you can select who the message should go to, and it sends the message in an email and creates a case note at the same time. So you have a history of those case notes. The contact information, this hasn't changed from the last time we talked. You can add in your contacts. We do want to make sure that you do have at least one contact for each of the people, each of the customers. And the way that a person becomes, like if you have maybe 5 people that you're working with, 5 different staff that you're working with at your location, each one of them need to have access to the tool in order to show up in this list. So if you don't see a person in this list, then let us know, and we can make sure that they get access to the tools. The next area is the really kind of like the big area. It's an important area. It's eligibility. And so when you first come to this page, there's an area that's self-identified as meeting requirements section. So it's this column. And when the youth completes the application, they have to answer a few eligibility questions at the beginning because we want to make sure that they're eligible before we, or at least they claim to be eligible, before we spend the time or waste their time, completing an online application. So the system will go ahead and check their date of birth. So when they enter in their birth date, the system will detect, whether or not that birth date is allowed for the program. And if it's not, then they're told that they don't meet the eligibility requirements. But when it comes to this page, you can see what the date of what their actual age is. So that would be checked. They're asked the question, do they live in Illinois? Yes or no. Are you authorized to work in the United States? They have the option of saying yes, no, or I don't know. So if they say yes, then great. That means that they meet one of the eligibility requirements. If they say no, then you would want to ask them if they answered that question correctly. And if they are like, yeah, well, I don't know, am I authorized to work in the United States? Then you can work with them to determine if they are or if they are not, and then you can adjust it to either yes or no. If you say, I don't know, it's going to uncheck this verified because it's not going to let you complete the eligibility verification until you give a specific yes or no.
And Natasha, I might point out too that we do require, this is why we require that for all of your youth participants that you complete an I-9 employment eligibility verification form. Hopefully everyone is completing an I-9 for all of your participants. It's a federal form, and you should have that I-9 listed in the youth participants file. There are a couple lists of documentation that go along with the I-9. So for example, an I-9, if you have if the youth has a passport, well, that by itself is good enough. Otherwise, you can use two forms of identification, like a driver's license and a Social Security card. But I want to reiterate, too, that Natasha's pointing out that the youth have already answered questions like this, and why don't we just take the youth's word for it? Well, because sometimes the youth don't know, or sometimes they think they know and they're wrong, or sometimes they very well may be dishonest on the form or something. And so we have a responsibility to make sure that we go back through and verify that what they filled out on their application is accurate. The things there are some things that Natasha will show here that are critical. In other words, if the youth is not an Illinois resident, the youth is ineligible to participate in the Community Youth Employment Program, period. So those questions are going to be real determinative that the youth will not be eligible. If the youth is not authorized to work in the United States, the youth is not going to be eligible to participate in the Community Youth Employment Program. So it's really important that you verify these things. But I want to remind you that if you do verify these things, that's great, but you need to maintain that documentation in the participant file. Okay? Thanks, Natasha.
And then for each of these items, too, you can see we added the little red asterisk to let you know that these areas are required. So these first ones must be answered. And so the next one on our list is the in-school use. And again, this one came from the customer's application. So if they say, yes, I'm an in-school youth, then you can drop down and say, okay, so you attended post-secondary training, you're attending post-secondary training at least half-time, something like that. So you can select that option, or you can choose one of the others. If they say, no, I'm out of school youth, then you can go ahead and answer these other questions. And again, the logic is built into the system, so it matches up with the logic that's in the application.
And Natasha, I might point out too on that, if they mark yes that they do have a high school diploma or equivalent, we may want to make that next question then an optional question, because if they've already got it, we don't necessarily need to know if they need to go back to school or not. Right.
Okay.
And the idea behind that second question there is, you know, if they're out of school because they already have a high school diploma, that's fine. They can still participate in the program. If they are out of school because they have dropped out of school, you'll remember from our program standards that if they've dropped out of school, they can still participate in the program, but only if they're willing to re-engage in education. So they need to make a commitment to you that they are willing to go back to school, and you can go ahead and enroll them in the program with the understanding. And when I say go back to school, it doesn't necessarily mean enroll as a full-time student again. It just means that they need to actively re-engage in pursuing either a high school diploma or an equivalent like a GED. So it might be that they're taking GED classes or something. That would be sufficient. Okay?
Great. Okay. So those are our first 4 questions. And then the next section is you need to have at least one of these options selected. So if the customer may have, like everything selected, if you go through and talk to them and, explain, do you have a disability? Are you really homeless, or are you in foster care? They may have just selected something. The point is that when you talk to them and you're going to verify and have the documentation for each of these, then you just mark it that it's verified. If they say they're homeless, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to point out that we do want you to mark any of these that apply. So as many of these that do apply, and it's the same where vice versa, the youth might not have marked them, and you'll see them and you'll say, hey, in your discussion, you might be able to verify that those things are the case. But we do want you to mark any of those that apply, but they have to have at least one of these criteria in order to be eligible for the program. Sorry about that, Natasha. Go ahead.
Yep. No, actually, I'll go ahead and update that text because in that way, I'll change it to select all that apply, and let me just really quickly, all that apply, at least one.
You guys get to see how we kind of design some of this as we go along. We try to work through the logic of it to make sure that the system corresponds to the program standards. So Natasha and her crew are really good about getting those updated to work well.
Okay, so if they have all the different things that are selected, the system is going, if this says that they're homeless, the system is going to make you check that this is verified before it'll give you the status of verified eligible or verified not eligible. And the whole point with this section is you just want to verify if they are or if they're not. And so it's not going to leave the system's not going to just allow you to leave these unchecked if the person says that they are. So again, they could have all of these, but then you just need to say that I have verified each of these. If you verified all, this isn't a realistic situation, but if let's say that you verified these top ones, and then it comes down to someone in my family receives SNAP benefits, and you're like, well, no, they don't. You can just simply unselect these items, and it'll be fine. The point is that whatever they had selected here, you can adjust that to whatever they really are eligible for, and that you just have to indicate that you have reviewed all these and that it has been verified. We just want to make sure that we have all of T's crossed, I's dotted, and so if somebody comes to look for that documentation, then you just make sure you have all that documentation in the system. Let's say that you talk to them and you find out that they had legal issues. You could click on verified, and then you just have to say, the point is that if they didn't say that they had it, but you found out during the discussion that they do, the point is you just have to have both of these checked. If you have one checked, you have to have the other checked in order for it to complete the verification process. Then we do ask one other question, and this really goes back, I think we've talked about this on previous webinars, but this is part of a performance measure, I believe, and
Correct.
they're asked in the application, how did they hear about the program and the tools, and so they can select a variety of options. And one of them is, did you hear about it through your local DHS office? And so they may have this selected. If they did, then great, it's going to say yes. If they don't have it selected, it'll look something like this. It'll look like this when you get to this page. And you just need to ask this question. So you can say, did you hear about it through your local FCRC or DHS office?
Yeah. And they may not know what the FCRC is, and you may not know what the FCRC is for that matter, but that you should. That's our Family and Community Resource Center. And so those are basically the local DHS offices. If you don't know where your local Family and Community Resource Center is, send me an email, let me know. We have something, you can Google this too, but I'll tell you what, I'll paste the link in the chat box here, but you can access this link to find your local DHS office. You would just select, it'll ask you for the type of office in the county where you want to locate it, and we can find those things. But anyway, you should be checking with youth to make sure that, we just want to know if they were referred by their local FCRCs or not. And that will probably just take some asking on your part to make sure.
Yep. And it doesn't mean, whether they hear about it from the FCRC or not, it doesn't impact eligibility. It's just that we want you to ask this question before we will let you verify eligibility. So
good point. That's exactly right. That they don't have to come from their local FCRC or anything like that. We just want to know, and so we want to make sure you answer that question. So we have got it set there where it will not allow you to move on until you get an answer to that question.
Okay. Yep. So you can either say yes or no. It doesn't matter. Just whatever they indicate is true. And then once you do all this, then you save the information. Say, for example, if I choose this, it's going to say eligibility not verified. If I choose this, it'll say I verified eligibility. And that's because it's looking at all these other options that are available up here and determining if they're eligible or not. Let's say if I go and I say that I don't live in Illinois, and I click on this, it's going to say verified not eligible. So you have three options: verified eligible, verified not eligible, and not verified. So we're going to say that I have verified this person is eligible, and then I'm going to go down to my enrollment status. So with my enrollment status, I can choose that they are enrolled and eligibility is verified, or I can say that, let me start off. Let me go from left to right. I guess I should have started over here. When you go to enrollment status, you're going to have to enter in customer type and enrollment status. So just go ahead and put, if they're in school use, go ahead and put that in there. And then, and Erin, some of the people might say, well, that's fine, but why did you ask me this person is out of school youth, and then, you asked me this again? Because there is, over time, they could start out as in-school youth and switch over to out-of-school youth.
That's exactly right. And you might mark somebody, if somebody joins your program and they have dropped out of high school, we've asked that question if they're willing to re-engage. So we might initially enroll them as an out-of-school youth, but as soon as they begin that active re-engagement towards pursuing the GED, then we would mark them as in school. So there's opportunity to classify youth as either in school or out of school.
Right. And so that's why we ask, because I just want to point out again that this is verify initial program eligibility, and then this is their ongoing enrollment status. So their enrollment status may change over time. You might have an in-school youth and they're enrolled and you've already verified eligibility, or you verified their eligibility, but now they're on a waiting list, or they declined to participate, or for whatever reason you're not willing to enroll them at the time. So you can enter that information and save it. And then let's say that I'm just going to make a change here. And then I made a change. And I should be able to see my enrollment history, but I'm going to actually have to refresh this page. And it'll show me my history. So as we said, you can switch from in-school youth to out-of-school youth and vice versa, and you can enter the information in. And so it does save it, and you can look at the enrollment history by selecting this little kind of show hide enrollment history button here, or the link, and then you can see who updated it and when it was updated. We're still continuing to build out the performance measures section, but we do have, because these are some of the tools that are upcoming, but we do have some of the pieces and parts that are already in the system. And so this was available, it's currently available, but one of the things we did is provided more of a little visual, an icon, to indicate if, a quickie look to, you can see if it's complete or incomplete. And for this example, all these items are incomplete. And then, of course, we have the document uploaded. So that hasn't changed. The big areas that have been updated, we spent, quite a bit of time on, trying to find the best way to pull all this together. So, so that will be released today. And then I have just some modifications that I have asked my programmer to move the error messages so they're specifically right next to the item that needs to be updated, just so it's real easy for you to see, which checkboxes need to be marked. Okay, so that's the progress page. I'm just want to go over case notes, just as a reminder that wherever you enter case notes, then you'll have a summary of those case notes here, and you can enter case notes as well. We do have the assessment, so I know many of you have already been working with the NACD and providing those types of assessments, and those NACD results would be on their assessment tab, as well as any of the skills and interests and all these that you see here. If you have additional assessments, you can enter them on this page as well. So it's just a way for you to keep all the customer information in one place that's easily accessible. And as a reminder, we have the Optimal Resume tool. And for anything that your customer has been saving in Optimal Resume, then it would display on this page, and you could select to view this document, so you could review and provide comment. You can't modify these areas, but you can view them, and you can use the messaging tool or the case note tool to provide feedback, preferably the case note tool, to provide feedback to the customer. Okay. Were there any other questions or anything else you want me to cover? I was going to briefly go over the dashboard stuff that we had talked about.
Yeah, so far so good. I like this.
Okay, good. Okay. So we've been talking about dashboards. I know that a lot of people have been asking about dashboards, and so this is what my programmer is going to be working on later on today or tomorrow. And it's a little bit different than what we had in the past, not by much. We still will use white. We use color coding, a combination of things. We use some color coding so that people that can, easily see color can identify with. We also use text so that you get an overview of what area we're talking about. And then we use information bubbles, which further clarify like the requirements and how we're pulling that information in, so that if you need to make an update or you're like, I don't know why I can't see this customer in this section, you'll be able to look at those information bubbles and work with that for troubleshooting. White is informational. Yellow is that there's an action needed. And one of the things that's a little bit different with those that are already working with our dashboards, now we're using red to indicate like a red flag. So if somebody's sitting in yellow too long, they're going to move to the red flag. Doesn't mean they're out like what we had normally do, but what it means is that you have now moved to a red flag section, and immediate action is needed, and then we'll provide you with text for next steps of what you need to do. And then we'll have green. You're good to go, moving on to the next section. And then the gray is that, kind of like you're grayed out. You're no longer, you're out. This is where you stopped. And so those will be as part of the dashboard. So again, we'll have filters. We'll have a variety of different dashboards that are available for you. So those are coming, again, as we continue to build out the tools, we'll add more dashboards. But basically, the big question that's been coming up is, can I see who's started applications and who's completed applications? So that information will be available. We'll also have a section that's related to the verification of eligibility. So if they're not verified, verified as eligible, verified as not eligible. If they're verified as eligible, then we're going to ask you some more questions because we want to know their enrollment status. So one of the things that I talked about with my programmer earlier today is that if they are determined that they are verified as not eligible, we're going to automatically change the enrollment status to not enrolled because instead of requiring you to do an extra step or, forgetting to do it and then having to try and figure out why, we have some of those fields that are blank. So we can go ahead and do that. Then we will have, a reminder of, so you can easily see which customers need partner contact information. So if you want to start out with absolutely nobody in your yellow zone, because again, remember, we don't want people to sit in yellow or red. We want them in the green or gray, preferably in the green. And so if you want to start out the gate looking like a champ, go ahead and make sure that all of your customers have partner contacts, and then this number will start out as 0. Then we have, again, have all their enrollment statuses set. And if they don't have the enrollment status set within 5 days of the application, we'll send a notice, a reminder to, move forward with doing something with them. You'll be able to see the breakdown of in-school, out-of-school use on the waiting list, who's enrolled, who's declined to participate, and who you're not willing to enroll. So that's the.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. There were a couple questions here that I think are relating from guest 2 here. It says, the section that's currently showing, is this available already for use? And so if you're talking about the dashboard is not yet already available, correct?
Correct. I just want to kind of give you a heads up of what we're currently working on. So
the idea is, and it relates to the guest 2's next question, which is there a way for us to categorize our youth as engaged in program, not engaged, waiting, etc.? That's kind of the idea of the dashboard, is that it will give you a convenient place to look so that you'll be able to see all these things. You'll be able to have kind of important information at your hands there, organized in a way that's easy to get to.
Right, and I guess I failed to mention, for those that aren't familiar with our dashboards, if you want to go up to this count, these are, you'll see, they're not really hyperlinks, but they look like hyperlinks on my page here. And so what we do is we provide a count of people, of customers that meet that specific criteria. And whenever you select that link, then it will take you to your customer list, but it'll take you to a filtered list of customers. So only the customers that meet that specific criteria would be listed. So yes, it does.
It's a super handy feature so that if you see, hey, there's something that requires some action from me, or if you just want to look and say, hey, I've got all these green ones, I'd like to see the list of everyone who's in good shape, you can click that and you'll see that filtered list, and it will sort for you the ones that either need action or that meet whatever criteria it is that's being displayed. So I think that's really a super handy feature.
Yeah, and so I think that answers is there a way to categorize our youth as engaged in program, not engaged? Because, so, and help me just to make sure that I'm babbling here, but okay, is there a way for us to categorize youth as engaged in the program, not engaged? So the way, or on a waiting list. So the way I would see that is going back to our progress page, is you're going to set their enrollment status. So if you say that they're enrolled and they're enrolled, they're currently enrolled.
Can you take a moment to show that enrollment status drop-down list again, just so that they can see those options?
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
Under the enrolled and eligibility verified. And I want to mention what those things are. So, again, we've got not eligible, which would mean that we've verified the youth and we have confirmed that they are not eligible. Otherwise, we have enrolled and eligibility verified. We have eligibility verified and on a waiting list. So if for some reason that you've got the youth and you've determined that this youth is eligible, however, you have you are maxed out on your capacity right now and you're not able to serve the youth with what you've got, we don't necessarily have to turn that youth away. We can put that youth on a waiting list. You could have maybe you reviewed all of the youth's eligibility and you determined that the youth was eligible and you said, hey, I'm ready to sign you up and put you in the program and enroll you, and the youth said, I changed my mind, I filled out this application, but now I think I don't want to do it anymore. That would be youth declined to participate. And then provider not willing to enroll. So if you had a particular youth that you just knew was not going to be a good fit for your program for one reason or another, that would be that other option. So I just wanted you to kind of see what those options are that you can mark the youth as.
Great. And then I just want to, responding real quick to Cynthia, I'll have my programmer take a look at your people, because you said that some of their NOCSI scores aren't coming through, so we'll just have them take a look at that.
Cynthia, I know you sent me an email on that too, and so I may just forward that email along to Natasha as well, and that way we can follow up with that afterwards.
Yep. But one of the things I did want to say, because whoever's logged in as guest too, whenever you said, I was really trying to process the whole engage in a program and not engage. So there's different ways that, because we have engaged in the program, I would assume that's enrolled in the program, or you have on a waiting list, but then not engaged. So if I'm understanding correctly, then that seems to me that at one point in time they were engaged, and now they've either withdrawn from the program or no longer want to be in the program. Okay, so what we're going to do, we need to add it to this progress page. But one of the things that I didn't actually cover because it's not currently on the progress page, but yes, there will be a way for you to mark them. So what they would do is you would still keep their enrollment status, but then you would mark them as complete. And so if they no longer wanted to be in the program, then your option would be complete, but they withdrew from the program.
And we've got those options there that you can kind of see. We're trying to define kind of when the youth is done in the program. So we've taken the time to define, what we call the youth being enrolled and eligible, and that's why we've got that enrollment status that we're going to verify. But then also when the youth is done, when we say done, we've served them, the youth has received training, the youth has gotten placed in a job, and so the question is, you can see kind of we've got the green and the gray there. Green means that the youth is successfully employed. We've gotten that youth a job, and to our knowledge, the youth is still employed in the job, and that would be one type of completion. Other completion for the youth might be the youth is done with the program, but he didn't really finish the program. So the youth maybe withdrew from the program, moved out of the area, was incarcerated, or other. So for example, let's say you tried and tried and tried to get this youth a job, and no matter what, this youth continued to lose the job. The youth was unable to retain the job consistently. And so you would just mark that, the youth is out of the program, and the program is complete, but, it wasn't really a successful completion in that we didn't get that youth a job. So just want to kind of clarify what it means like when we mark the youth as complete.
Okay, so I see there's, well, again, we'll have to look at Cynthia, your section. We'll look and make sure. So if you are having, let me do a quick polling question because I just need to know what accounts I can put on top of this, I guess. Polling question. So my question is going to be, have you been able to order NOCTI assessments? And my options are going to be, I have not tried it yet, or I can't do it, I can't order, or I can order. Okay, so if you let me know, I think those are really like the only options that there are. But if I'm missing one, then let me know. And then this way, please answer this just so I know who I need to contact or what accounts I need to look up. Because it could be, and if you haven't tried it yet, that's fine. Just let me know. Because that way, sometimes it's a matter of just making sure that we have the right contact person, or there's a few little steps that have to occur to make sure. And then my other question, just so I know how widespread this may be, is I'm going to say let's see, how do I say it? Having trouble viewing assessment, because we did make an update to we've made several updates to the assessment section just in Global WorkNet, and we always try to make sure that wherever we do testing, we test all over the place, but sometimes we might have broken something else, so I just need to know what the problem is so we can take a look at that. So okay, so I think this will give us an overview too. Okay, so you can see some results and no results are displaying. Okay, so let me ask a follow-up polling question. So it looks like career cluster Cluster, NOCD. Looking at the same plus Employment 101. We're able to print their certificates, not showing up in the profile. Okay, so it looks like you're having problems with employment. We'll just look at Employment 101. Let me add another polling question.
While you're at that, I'm going to answer Tony's question. Tony asked, is there an online manual for this program? And the answer is not yet. We're so close to having one. We continue to work on it, edit it, and revise it. What we've kind of been operating off of is the Notice of Funding Opportunity. And really, the program manual is going to be really similar to the Notice of Funding Opportunity, that we spelled out a lot of the standards in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. We're just rewording them to reflect a set of program standards, really, for the manual. So that's something that Natasha has been asking for herself for some time, and we are working hard to get you one, because we really need to have one. I agree that it would be good to have not just good, but necessary to have a program manual. There are some, I know out there, some older program manuals for the Community Youth Employment Program prior to the current incarnation of the Community Youth Employment Program, and so we're working on getting that fixed up. Hope to have that to you very, very shortly.
Okay, so if you, and please overlook all my typos and stuff, but so if you have problems reviewing any of the following assessments, select any that you have. So it looks like at least one person should be selecting Career Cluster and NOCD. So what this will do, it'll allow me to be able to see, which ones that you're having trouble with. Like who's having, it'll help me with troubleshooting, because I can look at your different accounts and I can see, what people have been, who can see stuff and who can't, so I can narrow it down to who's actually having issues and who's not, or when they started. Maybe it's because there was an update that we made and it's affected something else since then, or maybe it's a setting. It's just really helpful to know who can see what, or who's having a problem. I can't order. Okay. 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 Well, I do appreciate you taking the time to answer those polling questions, and we will be looking into these areas, and then I will do a cross-reference, because I can see who answered which questions for which, which response for each of these, and then that's really helpful. So I guess at this time I don't really have any additional information, but if you have any other questions that you would like to ask.
Can I go up to the last question there of guest 2? It says, so the other options will eventually show up as options in the drop-down box. Right now, my only options are set enrollment status or not enrolled. So is guest 2 looking in a different place, or is is that not something that's available on the progress page there?
This is one of the sections we had talked about. Talked about the other day, is that
Gotcha.
we need to add that completion status to the progress page.
Got it.
If I got, yeah. So we'll be adding a section here for completion status.
I wasn't thinking so much about completion status, I guess. I was thinking about the enrollment status.
Typically in the past we set the date as enrolled and we leave that there and then we mark a completion. So it doesn't overtake that status.
Got it. Okay.
So you can still see who was enrolled and verified. Like if you look at people over time, how many people were enrolled and verified, and then you can see, okay, of those people that were enrolled and verified, 90% of them were hired by an employer and 10% of them withdrew from the program.
Understood. Got it.
So this will be your snapshot in snapshot in time. Again, we do give you the flexibility of being able to update this, and to see that history. But the completion, we typically have it as a separate section for completion status. Okay. All right. Well, any other questions? If not, thank you so much.
I appreciate you working with us on the webinar, and I'll let you know after I have some time to talk with Natasha maybe later this week about a webinar next week or not. Natasha, do you happen to know if you are expecting some additional new information available next week that we will have a webinar about, or are you anticipating maybe a couple weeks?
I would like to hope that we would have something on the progress page.
Okay.
Not the progress page, the dashboard.
Okay. So we will look at next week then. We'll plan to have a webinar next week. And again, I appreciate your flexibility with the schedule and setting aside this time. We like to have them available, but since this is such a dynamic process, sometimes what we thought we were going to cover by the time the webinar comes along, we're just not quite ready to cover it, and so I want to try to give you notice, but sometimes I know it's pretty last minute because it can be difficult to know exactly whether or not we're going to have that on the schedule. But right now we'll plan on it, and
I think it's also good that if we have the questions, I mean, even if we don't have a particular topic, we could still reserve that time and space, so that if you have any questions, make sure you bring them during that time. And even if it's a 5-minute webinar or 15-minute webinar, you have that ability to ask freely all your questions.
I don't mind some of these days where we don't necessarily have any new content to cover. I don't mind to just, even if Natasha's not available, she's made staff available in the past where we can bring up just the conference call, and we can answer any questions via chat, and it can be short, and then we can wrap it up. I don't mind to do that as long as you guys aren't terribly disappointed. I know the webinars, I told Natasha that the webinars that she's able to participate in and host are always much more exciting than the ones that I do on my own. But I do see there was a question that says, if we should have any more questions about Nocti and WorkNet, who should we contact? I'm going to give you this email address again. Everything, and let me say again how impressed I've been with the Illinois WorkNet about following up. That I've been copied on a lot of emails that were sent to info@illinoisworknet.com, and those emails get some pretty quick response, and so I've been really pleased with that. And a lot of the issues are getting worked out. And if it's something that takes a little more time to work out, at least they know about it and they're on top of it. So definitely send an email if you're having trouble with WorkNet there to info@illinoisworknet.com. Feel free to copy me on the email if you would like to, and that's just aaron.hacker@illinois.gov, and you can copy me as well, but they're usually the ones who can solve the problem. They're the ones who are on top of it and can usually get to the bottom of what's going on. All right?
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
All right. Good afternoon, guys. Have a good day. Goodbye.